right, in a little bit of a downer video is going to be my worst slash most disappointing books of the year. Thankfully, there were only 4 books of the entire year, 80, 85 books, and close to 90. I don't know how many books I read. Only 4 that I genuinely despised and regret reading. And then I'm just going to add on a couple more that were just kind of not for me. Like 3.5, they were good, but I had such high expectations, but they were a little disappointing because I expected to really love them. Possible new favorites. Not going to be right at the bush. We're going with The Kind Worth Saving. Worst book I've ever read. I think I have an hour and a half-ish long rant review about this book and this plot, so I should link that to this video. My God, the sequel to my favorite book of all times, my favorite thriller, or used to be my favorite thriller, I might have found a new one, but that's besides the point. The sequel to The Kind Worth Killing, that should not exist. Like, there's no reason this has to be a sequel. The characters are frustratingly stupid. It does not make half sense what they're doing. And it has the most tenuous link to the original. That's so insulting it has to retcon the original ending and to give you this. You have the police officer from the first book. Events happen in the first book to leads him to where he is now, and now he's investigating a murder-suicide that may not be a suicide, it might just be double homicide, and he's going from there. And then it links back to the first book, and I hated every second of this book, and just went off on a rant about how much I despised it. Yeah, most hated book of the year. Next one's going to be How to Kill Your Family. I don't know what I expected. I just picked up a bunch of books that had similar titles involving killing people. I forget what I read. It was like How to Kill Your Family. Everyone in my family has killed somebody, and I think there was a third one as well. But, I mean, Everyone in my family has killed someone was a new favorite, so I'm very happy I did that video. This one, however, made the worst books of the year list. I wish I could tell you what it was about. I think I blocked half it from my memory. A girl is looking for her father because her father is from a rich family and her mother's from a poor family, and they got together and had her, and then the rich family ostracized her mother and her and just left them on their own, and I think the father was already married with a family of his own, and she's just one by one knocking off all the family members to get vengeance, and she is despicable in the kind of, oh, if I had all this money, I'd be a good person, but you're terrible people. And everyone that's rich in this family, terrible, terrible people. There's what could be considered a plot twist near the end, but I just hated the experience of reading this book, and the main character was insufferable. How I finished it, I don't know. The Only Survivors, like, this was frustratingly bad, and I'm tempted to say it didn't have a plot. It was plot conveniences, moves characters to situations where they can overhear something and then stupidly not put things together so a weird outcome can occur. You have a group of high schoolers at the time were in a tragic accident, and now every year they meet up because sometimes someone might commit suicide after all the trauma they went through with an incident that happened in the school. And they just kind of get together for support, but one person doesn't show up, another goes missing, and hey, what's going on here? And then you're cutting back and forth between them as adults and them as high school kids during the event, and it's working backwards. So first you have them surviving the event, and then slightly before that and slightly before that, leading up to the cause of the event. It's like a bus crashing kind of thing, and they just got to survive in the wilderness and get help. This would have just been a 2-star read because it wasn't like frustrating, hateful, bad. It was just boring, very boring and very stupid characters. Like, I couldn't tell you, by the end, when I finished this, I could not tell you the characters' names, let alone like their jobs and personalities and what they did, because they were all interchangeable. I did not enjoy the character work in this at all. They were all the exact same character to me. But what led to the event was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, and one of the characters needs a better therapist because, my God, that was a terrible thing to happen in terms of plot convenience. Like, it was bad. This could not. You seriously expect me to believe that happened? Then you have The Perfect Marriage. I swear, I must have a different version of this book than some of the reviews that I've read. All the characters are insufferable. Husband has cheated on his wife. His mistress has been killed. and the wife is a lawyer, so she is representing her husband to say that he did not kill his mistress. And then I want to know if any lawyers were consulted in this book, because it feels like they weren't. Oh my god. The husband is a man child who flies off the hinges and has no emotional regulation whatsoever. I've met 3-year-olds with better like coping mechanisms than this adult man. He is convinced that, oh, it must be the abusive boyfriend. Oh, well, he seems like a nice guy. Why would he lie to me? Oh, this person complimented and stroked my ego for a little bit, so they must be a trustworthy person. I like this person. You know who I'm not going to believe and trust? My wife that I'm in love with and have been married to and is the best lawyer in the city or whatever. No, I'm not going to take her advice at all. I mean, this random reporter says she believes me and took one of my writing classes, so I'm going to take their advice and trust them. I hate the husband more than anything. Like, he is frustratingly stupid. Doesn't help that, like, within the first 3 chapters, we had, like, 3 or 4 different sex scenes, and they were all terrible. Like, I was either bored or disturbed. I'm like, is this supposed to be erotic? Like, it's just bad. And then, oh, don't get me started on the fact that he sleeps with his mistress like a couple hours after meeting her. And she's like half his age. So at first I thought, like, was this written by a guy? Is this wish fulfillment? No. Well, it must be wish fulfillment for the lawyer, who is a businesswoman. She's top of her company. Everyone says that she's the best of the best, and everyone's idolizing her and wants to be her. Every single woman she comes in contact with is jealous of her. And I'm like, you are so frustrating. And I'm convinced she's a terrible lawyer. The plot goes in a way that the twist at the end works, but I just hate all these characters so much, and it was so frustrating to read. This is a little bit higher on the 1 star, so it was better than the other 3 I mentioned. It was almost a 2. The ending specifically almost made me give it a 2, but I hated both the main characters so much that I could not bring myself to do it. Okay. These other ones, okay, actually, this first one is not, I really didn't like it, The Changeling. But it's mostly for disappointment. I had heard such high praise of it. It's so many people's ultimate favorite. I was really looking forward to this. It's supposed to be like Changeling, someone's child is stolen and replaced with a changeling, like a duplicate who's in their place, like a fairy offspring. But we'll go into witches, we'll go into trolls, we'll go into other supernatural creatures, we'll go into the dark web, we'll go on to a fantasy island, we'll go with monsters from overseas, we'll explore all these other ideas. You know what we barely even touch on? The changeling factor. I think we can kind of assume the thing at the end that's babies are the changelings, but it's not how I would think they should be. I can't really say why I want fairy abduction, not what we got. Unless you count the subcategory of what we got as a fairy, which makes it a changeling. It didn't work for me, okay? On top of that, it felt like 3 separate novels all squished together. So we had the setup of a glorious, glorious novel of, first it's the main character, the guy, his parents, and their history, and how he came to be, and his childhood, and we're going so much detail into him, and how he falls in love with his wife, and how they get together, and how their child is born. And it is so well written. I love these characters at the beginning. That's a glorious start of a novel. But then we switch, and now we have a novel that's focusing on him trying to get money to raise his son and have a family. And I would think it would lean more into postpartum depression and stuff like that, because the mother is struggling. And she's getting these photos and notes and saying, like, concerning her child and someone getting closer to them. And I'm like, okay, we're getting to the mother does something terrible, which leads to revenge kind of thing on the husband's part. So thing happens, it's over in a second, and then we cut forward like 6-ish months later, however long it is, and the husband's getting out from the consequences of what happened from that. And I'm just like, we don't see the fallout. We don't see his reaction. We missed pretty much the majority of what could have been postpartum depression and just jumped right into events. So we missed the build up there. We missed the build up of the consequences of how people react to this. And now he's just on the hunt for his wife. Okay, so now it's a hunt. Oh, no, now we're into a fantasy island. Now we're talking about fairy tales and the themes of fairy tales, and you can't have a happy ending after going through all this. And then we switch again that to a third type of story that goes into like abduction, and I don't want to get into spoilers, but it feels like 3 separate stories, none with a satisfying ending. And like the last one barely had a beginning. I'm like, I feel this one didn't click for me. I wish I could say I understand why other people like it. Normally I can. Normally I can at least appreciate why someone else liked the story. This one I really couldn't. Episode 13. Again, it's not that I hated this book at all. It was just disappointing. I was so looking forward to it. Found footage, they're a documentary team that kind of like a YouTube vibe where they're going into haunted houses, filming it, putting it on TV. And they are answering to a network or a station. I forget if it's actually YouTube or if it's an actual television show. Something like that. And they go into this haunted house, and you get vibes of, House's Castle? I cannot pronounce it. I'm sorry. That castle with, like, hell in the bottom. That one. And then there's this weird time element to it, and there's so many little elements that seem like it should work and be very interesting. And I just love the idea of a documentary style found footage with video recordings and diaries and stuff like that. That all just sounds so interesting. So I was really, really looking forward to this one. But like the characters, frustratingly stupid, and just frustrating. I think there were 2 characters I liked. One who was barely in it, and the other one who was kind of just more tolerable. The worst being the former cop. Were we supposed to like him, or we were supposed to hate him, right? Like, he was supposed to be hateable. And even though he, in his mind, and anytime we were with that character, he saw himself as like the hero and perfect. So we're in his point of view, and it's just praising him. And all the while I'm thinking, I hate this man. I want to see you die. And then you have like the 2 scientists or the one scientist and her husband, who's kind of more believing in ghosts, but still critical. It's weird thing. Like, they were kind of bland. I don't know. The characters did not work for me at all for this one. So really, really interesting premise. Did not click in its execution for me. Silver Nitrate. I was so looking forward to this one. This is like, listen, this is like a high 3.5 or something like that. It is good. It is well written. I just expect it to love it. I want it to love it. I thought this would be my vibe. Old school Hollywood and horror movies. Again, they mentioned The Blob. I love The Blob and like The Thing and other classics. I loved classic horror. And then you have cults and magic and, okay, I don't really like film noir kind of thing, but I like that vibe, and that's what I thought I was going to get from this. But it was just fine. In terms of my investment, I was medium level invested at the beginning, I was medium level invested in the middle, medium level invested in the end, a little cool ending, and then we're done. There was no rising and falling actions, there was nothing to get me excited and then low and then highs. It was fine the entire way through, and I just expected to be blown away. I don't know why my hopes were so high for this one. I just really thought it would click for me, and it didn't, and that's just disappointing. Rouge, Mona Awad might show up on my disappointments a little bit because her writing is glorious and flawless, and I love her writing more than anything. So every time she publishes a book, I'm like, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one with the plot that's perfect for me. Like, I love All's Well so very much, but I had an issue with it. That didn't lead it to be an all-time favorite. But the writing, I cannot tell you how much I love Mona Awad's writing. And I'm like, okay, the beauty industry, this is going to be great. I'm going to love it. And no, because I like an active protagonist. I want the direction of the plot to be influenced by the main character. I want the consequences and choices that the main character makes lead to the results of where the plot goes. And that's not what I got here. This was fever dream, wild ride. The plot is happening to the main character and she's being swept away. We're dealing with grief. We're dealing with like a cult and immortality. Her mother just died, dysfunctional families. Like everything is there to be great, but just the plot itself being so surreal and fever dream like. Very, very much Mona Awad. This is definitely the story she wanted to tell. This is definitely their style. This is definitely what a lot of people would expect from them. And a lot of people are going to love this book, but just not my vibe. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for Mona Awad to completely blow me away. The only reason it's on this list is because I have such high expectations. I don't know if they'll ever be met when it comes to Mona Awad. Please read from this author. Her writing is gorgeous. I love her writing. And that's all that there are, because I had Sawkill Girls on here and I realized I DNF'd that one at like 30%. And that I can't say put that one on my list. So, all right, that's what I got for my worst and most disappointing thing. Again, disappointing because I had high expectations for them, probably for unjustifiable reasons. I'm just like, that's going to be my vibe. When it wasn't my vibe, I got sad. So disappointing for that reason, not because they're bad books, except for like the first four, in which case I just despise those books and hate them very much. All right, that's all I got. I will talk to you later. Bye.